If you ever ride the last bus at night, remember, the cameras don't always see what you do. I was a university student when this happened, taking evening classes that often ended later than I liked. Because of that, I usually caught the very last bus going toward my neighborhood. It wasn't the safest time to be out, but the bus route was simple, and I never had problems before. Most nights, there were only 2 or 3 passengers, and everyone kept to themselves. I always sat in the same place, 3rd row from the back, next to the window. That spot felt safe enough. I could see everything around me without being too exposed. But one night, something happened that made me rethink public transportation completely. When I boarded the bus, it was almost empty except for a woman sitting near the front. She looked normal enough at first glance, medium height, shoulder-length hair, a plain dress. Nothing strange. She didn't even look up when I stepped inside. I took my usual seat, put my backpack on my lap, and rested my head against the cold window. I was exhausted and just wanted to go home. But a few minutes into the ride, I felt that familiar sensation of being watched. At first, I ignored it. I thought maybe I was just overtired or anxious from exams. But when I shifted slightly and glanced back, the woman was sitting right behind me. I didn't hear her move. There were no footsteps, no rustling clothes, nothing. One moment she was near the front, the next she was directly behind me, sitting stiffly, her hands clasped in her lap. She didn't look at me, but something about her posture felt wrong, to still, to controlled. Her face didn't show any expression at all. I tried to convince myself she moved because she wanted a different seat. People do that. People switch seats. But why move to the one directly behind me on an empty bus? I turned my eyes to the window again and tried to breathe normally. Maybe she wasn't paying attention to me. Maybe I was imagining her focus. But the feeling didn't leave. It grew worse, like invisible threads pulling at the back of my neck. A few minutes later, the bus stopped at a small station. No one got on. But when the doors closed and the bus started moving again, I heard a soft sound like the shift of fabric. It came from my left. I slowly turned my head. She was now sitting beside me, not close enough to touch, but close enough that I could clearly see her profile. Her face was turned forward, staring at the seat in front of her. Her hands were still tightly clasped, knuckles white. Her breathing was slow and controlled, almost too controlled. The bus was completely silent except for the engine, but I didn't hear her sit down beside me. No footsteps, no noise at all. It was as if she simply appeared there. My heart began beating faster, loud enough that I thought she might hear it. I clutched my backpack, trying not to look directly at her. I didn't want to seem rude or confrontational, but I couldn't ignore the chills running through my body. I leaned slightly away, pressing myself toward the window. The glass felt freezing against my arm. After another stop, something even stranger happened. I blinked for a second, not even long enough to lose focus, and when I opened my eyes, she was gone from the seat beside me. For a moment, I actually felt relieved. Maybe she stepped out without me noticing. Maybe she got off at one of the small stops we passed. But when I looked ahead, my relief vanished completely. She was now sitting in the row in front of me, turned halfway around, her face angled toward me, still not looking directly, but angled, as if she was waiting for me to notice. The smile on her face made my stomach twist. It wasn't a friendly smile. It wasn't even a forced smile. It was a cold, unnatural curve of the lips, as if she were copying the idea of a smile without understanding it. I wanted to call the driver. I wanted to pull the emergency cord. But something about the woman's presence made me feel frozen. I couldn't move. I could only watch her slowly turn her head forward again, that cold smile still lingering. The bus continued down the quiet streets, and her movements became more unpredictable. Every time I blinked, she was in a slightly different pose, tilting her head, turning her hands, shifting her shoulders. It wasn't natural. No one moves that quietly, that smoothly. At the next stop, I worked up the courage to stand and move toward the front. I didn't want to sit near her anymore. I grabbed my backpack and stood up, trying to keep my breathing steady. I stepped into the aisle and froze. She was sitting in the seat directly in front of me again. But this time, she was turned fully around, staring straight into my eyes. No blinking, no expression, just cold, sharp focus. Her smile slowly widened, stretching to far. It didn't look human anymore. I stumbled back into my seat, my legs shaking. I couldn't scream. My voice felt locked inside my throat. I didn't understand how she moved so fast without making a sound. I didn't understand why she kept moving closer. The bus driver suddenly glanced into his rearview mirror. I saw his brows furrow for a moment, and his eyes widened just slightly. He took another look, longer this time, and then pulled the bus over to the side of the road. Without a word, he stood up and walked toward me. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. Before I could answer, he looked around the bus, scanning each seat. His expression changed from concern to confusion. "Who were you looking at?" he asked. I turned to the seat where the woman had been. It was empty, but that wasn't possible. I had just seen her there. She had been sitting in front of me seconds ago. I started to panic, my breath coming out in sharp bursts. The driver placed a hand on my shoulder. "Sit down. I need to show you something." He led me to the front and pointed toward a small screen monitor that displayed the bus's security camera footage. He rewinded the video about 10 minutes. My heart hammered in my chest as the footage played. I watched myself sitting in the third row from the back. I watched myself look behind. I watched myself shift in my seat. But there was never anyone behind me. There was never anyone beside me. There was never anyone sitting in front of me. The bus was completely empty. Every single seat. Every single moment. Not once did the camera show the woman I saw. The driver looked at me with sympathy and fear in his eyes. He didn't question me. He didn't tell me I imagined it. He simply said, "Some passengers see things on this route. Things the cameras don't." I didn't know what to say. I got off the bus to stops early and walked home, shaking the entire way.